Hello and welcome to the first EasyPro webinar entitled Introduction to EasyPro. My name is Dr. Sean Travers. I work at Cork Communications in Dublin and I lead the dissemination and communication of the EasyPro project. This webinar will present the aims of EasyPro, an EU-funded LIFE programme project that will make Irish universities carbon neutral via cheap, easy and tailored energy performance contracting. Today's speaker is Dr. Luciano D from University College Cork's International Energy Research Centre, or the IERC, and Luciano is the coordinator of the EasyPro project. Thank you for your attention and cooperation, and Luciano will be here shortly for the introduction to EasyPro webinar.
Okay, so welcome everybody. Thanks for joining this webinar. In this webinar, we would like to make an introduction to energy performance contracting and review how an energy performance contract is structured. We are performing work on energy performance contracting as part of the EasyPro project. This is a new funded project that started in July 2024 and aims to develop a facilitation service to implement energy performance contracting at Irish universities. Okay, so the summary of the presentation is the following. So, introduction to energy performance contracting, what energy service companies are, relationships between customer, ESCO, and investors, lenders in energy performance contracting, EPC versus the traditional approach. What are the advantages of an EPC? And then I'd like to go through the structure of an energy performance contract. So the different sections that an energy performance contract has, these are related to the works, existing equipment and equipment ownership, equipment warranties, ESCO warranty, testing and commissioning, completion and acceptance of works, what the services are under an EPC, so the training, maintenance and replacement of equipment, measurement and verification, the role of an EPC facilitator, the tendering process, and maybe provide some information about the EasyPro project, so what the EasyPro project is delivering to Irish universities. Okay, so what is energy performance contracting? That directive of the European Parliament defines energy performance contracting as a contractual arrangement between the beneficiary and the provider, which is normally called the energy service company, of an energy efficiency improvement measure, where investments in the measures are paid in relation to a certain level of energy efficiency improvement, which is defined within the contract. So the payment that the ESCO receives depends on the performances of the energy performance of the energy efficiency measures installed. So energy service companies are companies that provide energy services such as energy efficiency or renewable energy projects to their clients. And these companies aim to guarantee a certain level of energy savings or energy cost reductions, and that's called the performance guarantee. They receive a remuneration that is tied to the performances achieved. They can provide finance or assist their clients to arrange finance and provide the savings guarantee. Okay. They take responsibility normally for maintenance of the equipment and for the energy efficiency improvement measures installed. They provide staff training to ensure better system operation and control. So what is the relationship between the parties? The customer that in our project is an Irish university pays a service fee to an ESCO, which is a service provider, and the ESCO would borrow money from an investor or a lender. So this can be a bank, and repays the loan, of course, and the lender provides the finance to the company to procure and install the agreed energy efficiency measures. And so the ESCO delivers a smart energy service to the customer, which means achieving a certain level of savings or maximizing the savings, so have the highest level of savings possible, because that's in the interest of the ESCO. So the ESCO is paid more if the savings are higher, or if the savings are too low, the ESCO would lose some money, so they would have to refund the customer for the portion of savings not achieved. And we will see how this is implemented in the contract in the next slides. So the EPC, how the EPCs compare against the traditional approach. So the traditional approach, which has been used for a long time, is a design, bid and build model that is also called design tender. And with this model, the building owner bears all the risks, and these risks include possible increase of the cost of the works, technology risks, which are associated with the integration of new equipment and measures within the existing building systems, and also the uncertainty about the operational performance of the installed energy efficiency measures. And especially the third risk is the risk that the EPCs aim to minimize. There is an uncertainty around the savings, the energy savings that can be achieved by the measures, but with the EPC model, the ESCO can guarantee a certain level of savings. And in addition to that, the ESCO manages all the relationships with the finance providers, with the energy suppliers, with mechanical and electrical engineering consultants, technology suppliers, and the installers. And in this way, the client only needs to manage a single contract, which is the EPC, with a single supplier, which is the ESCO. And that simplifies the procurement and the management of the companies that are required to implement the measures and to get energy savings and improve the energy efficiency at the universities in this case. Okay, what is the structure of an energy performance contract? We know that SCI has developed a template for energy performance contracting. Actually, our project EasyPro will also develop a template, so we're not using necessarily the same template that SCI has developed and made available through their website. But I think it is a very well developed template that can be used to understand what are the different sections and how a contract is organized. So there are different sections. The first section is called the works, and this includes some subsections and describes basically the works that are performed by the ESCO into a building. And there are several subsections. I will not go through all of them in detail, but I will go through the most important subsections. Then we have a section called the service that describes which service is provided by the ESCO to the client. And this also has some subsections. Then we have a third section is measurement, guarantee, and payment. And then we have miscellaneous. Of course, measurement, guarantee, and payment is very important because the EPC is not limited to performing works and delivering a service, but let's say the service includes measuring the energy savings achieved and guaranteeing performance of the measures installed, and also determining a payment which reflects whether the savings are achieved or not, and also the amount of savings that are achieved. The works, okay, the ESCO performs the works with all the skills, care, diligence, efficiency, professional conduct that is reasonably expected from a professional with qualification and experience. The ESCO is responsible for supervising and direct the works and ensuring that the works are completed, that they fit their intended purpose. They are responsible for all construction and installation means, all the methods, techniques, sequences, procedures, and the coordination of all the elements of the works. The ESCO also procures the equipment together with all the labor, personnel, tools, construction equipment, machinery, transportation of the equipment, and all the other facilities, services necessary for the proper execution and to complete the works. The works need to be completed by the ESCO in accordance with a certain program for the works. And there are also design documents that must be followed, and of course, complying with all the applicable legislation, regulations, guidelines, laws, standards, and codes of practice, which also include, but they are not limited to, the construction regulation and the building regulations. Also, there are a number of clauses in the contract that explain how the existing equipment are managed and what the equipment ownership clauses are. So, first of all, the existing equipment remains property of the client, even if it is replaced by the ESCO, or if its operation becomes unnecessary because of the works or services provided by the ESCO. The ESCO will advise the client in writing whether the existing equipment needs to be replaced or removed from the premises, and explaining the reasons why this equipment must be replaced or removed. The client also can reply in writing to the ESCO, and of course provide their feedback on the recommendation of the ESCO. The title to the equipment, and including all the parts, materials, licenses, powers, and privileges purchased and installed by the ESCO remain vested in the ESCO, but the client is provided with the option to purchase the equipment when the contract expires, either for 1 year, or for the current market value of the equipment at the end of the project. And this, of course, depends on the depreciation of the equipment. So if there is a full depreciation, so the value of the equipment is almost zero at the end of the contract, they can purchase it for 1 year. Otherwise, if it has a significant residual value, then they will the client will purchase it with the current market value. And the title to the equipment passes to the client immediately upon the payment to the ESCO of the relevant amount. Okay, all the available manufacturer warranties related to the equipment, including the warranties relating to spare parts used and installed when repair is necessary because of a malfunction of the equipment, are assigned by the ESCO to the client and will deliver it to the client as soon as is practicable. The ESCO is granted the authority from the client to make all the necessary manufacturer warranty claims in relation to the equipment on behalf of the client as soon as this is possible, after that a defect or a fault arises. So the ESCO manages the equipment even if the manufacturer warranties are owned by the client. The client may ask the ESCO in writing to rectify and resolve any defect or fault. in the equipment in a certain time frame, which should be reasonable and proportionate, so not too long, not too short. I mean, too long would not be in the interest of the client, but the client should not request to fix defect in a too short time frame. So the time that the ESCO is given should be reasonable. So the ESCO will rectify and resolve the defects or faults within the time frame agreed. The ESCO will resolve the defects, rectify the defects at their own expenses, and this is part of the agreement in the works section of the contract. The ESCO will also provide a warranty to the client. The ESCO warranty covers all the materials and the equipment furnished. They will be of good quality, fit for purpose, and new. There can be some exceptions where the ESCO would supply pre-owned equipment, but this must be agreed. Normally, they are new equipment. So this equipment must be free from faults and defects, and the quality, as I said, should be good. The ESCO will also conform during the works with the requirements that are described in the contractual agreement, I mean the EPC agreement, and also in the design documents. The ESCO warranty does not cover some damage or defects that are caused by an abuse by the client or any agent or employee working for the client. Modifications made that are made or authorized by the client, which have not been previously approved or executed by the ESCO or by subcontractors of the ESCO. If there is an improper or insufficient maintenance or operation by or on behalf of the client, which is not in accordance with the contractual agreement, so the ESCO warranty will not apply in that case. And also, it must be considered the normal wear and tear under normal usage, so the normal degradation of the equipment when it is used is not covered by the warranty. If it is required by the client, the ESCO should provide satisfactory evidence about the quality of the materials and the equipment, and should also keep the operation manual updated with all the recommended maintenance procedures in order to operate the equipment in an appropriate manner. So when the works are completed, so they are near to a substantial completion of the work, the ESCO will notify the client no less than 7 days in advance of the completion of the works about a commissioning and testing session where all the parts of the works and equipment will be tested, commissioned, and the client, of course, or a person that is nominated by the client will have the right to attend this commissioning and testing session, and all the tests will be conducted by the ESCO or manufacturers of the equipment. The ESCO will make sure that all the necessary documents and information are supplied to the client, and also that they comply with all the protocols, testing and commissioning, for example, protocols that apply to the works, and the client must be aware of all these protocols and information. The ESCO also needs to correct any defects or deficiencies in the works or in the equipment that are observed during the commissioning and testing procedures. And they must deliver a written report about the testing and commissioning of the works and the equipment to the client. And they have to provide appropriate documentation about the testing and commissioning, and also including all the operation and maintenance documentation before this is the phase that is called substantial completion of the works. So what is substantial completion of the works? Basically is the closure of the works by the agreed date with the client. And of course, if the ESCO fails to achieve this substantial completion, the contractual agreement can be terminated by the client. Also, the client should accept the works by signing a certificate of substantial completion of the work. And there is also a snag list with some items. Basically, this list may include items to be fixed, and if the client does not agree that the works have achieved substantial completion, or the snag list is not completed or correct, then the ESCO should be notified in writing within 10 business days from the closure of the works, and the ESCO must complete all the items in the snag list and correct all the issues that emerged after the completion of the works, and resubmit the substantial completion to the client if this was not achieved in the first within the first attempt. If the ESCO disagrees with all any or maybe all the discrepancies raised by the client, the ESCO shall notify the client about a dispute that is conducted by an expert. So they go to an expert and have a dispute to find who is right and who is wrong. Another section in the contractual template is called the services. So the previous provisions were all included in the section called the works, but now the second section is called the services. And one major service that the ESCO provides is the training. So after that the works are completed, the ESCO must train the client's staff about the operation and maintenance procedure for the works. And this also includes software replacement or upgrades where it is applicable. So the training will take place at the premises when at a time agreed with the parties, by the parties, and the costs of the training are borne by the ESCO. So the ESCO provides the training at their own expenses. If the ESCO adds or changes or replaces, modifies, or upgrades the equipment, they have also provided an update to the training initially provided to the client's staff about these changes that have been have happened, have been applied to the system. Okay, this is about the training. The service also includes maintenance and replacement of the equipment. So the ESCO is normally responsible for maintenance and upkeep of the equipment, and this maintenance and upkeep can also be a service that applies to existing equipment, and they are obliged to carry out any technical, administrative, and management measure during the life cycle of the equipment or the existing equipment to maintain or restore its operative condition. Now, because our project is delivering a facilitation service to the universities in particular, I know that in the universities there are maintenance teams that are in charge of maintenance. So one important aspect when we are going to develop our own template would be whether this clause, for example, would apply to universities, or the universities would prefer to modify this clause in such a way that they are responsible for the maintenance, but the ESCOs are overseeing them. And I would say the ESCO must check that the maintenance as agreed in maintenance document is performed according to what was agreed, because if the energy savings are not achieved, basically the ESCO is going to pay a penalty. So the ESCO must be aware that the maintenance was always performed properly if they're not doing directly. So the client, according to this, let's say, state-of-the-art contract, shall incur no cost for maintenance when the ESCO is servicing or adjusting the equipment. So either the new installed equipment or the existing equipment, and unless there is a negligence or a misconduct of the client or of any employee or agent of the client, and then the client in that case should be liable for the cost of maintenance actions or servicing the equipment or adjustments to the equipment that are caused by negligence or misconduct. When the contractual agreement expires, so the ESCO hands over the equipment, including the existing equipment, in a condition that should be regarded as secure and operative. Of course, there will be a certain normal wear and tear, and so the equipment is not new after the contract is completed. So the contract may have like 10 years or 15 years duration. So there is a certain degradation of the equipment that should be normal, considered normal. Also, the ESCO takes the responsibility to replace any equipment or existing equipment at its own expenses if this equipment reaches its end of life during the contractual agreement. So if the equipment is deteriorated and needs to be replaced, that is done by the ESCO without additional costs for the client. Okay, another important component is of the service, and I think this is really the last slide about the contractual arrangement, is the measurement and verification service. So this includes measuring and establishing the baseline. What is the baseline? So the baseline is a reference energy consumption, so the energy consumption of the facility before installing the energy efficiency measures. And this baseline will be used to compare the energy consumption after installing the measures and to determine the energy savings. And then if the energy savings are not achieved, the payment to the ESCO will be reduced. But there are some provisions, there are some clauses that apply to the baseline. So this baseline normally remains constant during the contractual agreement, but there are some circumstances where the ESCO may change this reference value, and these circumstances arise when there is a change in the use of all or part of the premises. So if the client changes the use of some zones in the premises, this may lead to a different energy consumption, so the baseline needs to be updated. Also, occupancy rate. We know that during the COVID time, the occupancy rate was very low, so the baseline energy consumption, if one would perform an energy performance contract, would be different when the occupancy is low compared to when the occupancy is high. And modification or enlargement of the premises. So if the university would build another building or additional labs or building extension, of course, these additional zones would consume energy, and so the baseline needs to be updated by the ESCO. Implementation of new standards or a new regulation governing lighting, temperature, relative humidity or ventilation conditions in the premises. And that's clear because, of course, if lighting or temperature control or humidity control or ventilation is changed, so the energy consumption will change, and also the baseline needs to be updated. Any additional enhancements or reduction of the scope of the works documented by the client that differ from what was previously agreed with the ESCO during an audit, so called investment grade audit performed by the ESCO and in the design documents. So if some equipments are replaced with other equipments that are more energy efficient, so the baseline will be lower because the normal energy consumption will become lower than what was measured initially. If there is an additional work requested by the client that results in an increase or decrease of the energy consumed within the premises, this is something that needs to be also noted and reflect on the baseline. So how this process of adjustment works, so the baseline is adjusted by the ESCO, but the ESCO must provide the client with an adjustment notice summarizing the new values within 20 days, the adjustment. If the client advises the ESCO representative that the client does not approve the adjusted baseline, so the payments continue with the previous baseline that was agreed, but this agreement should be referred to expert determination. So basically they have a conflict that need to be resolved considering an expert advice. So the payments, okay, that was the baseline. Establishing and maintaining an agreed baseline is important because they need to calculate the energy savings. So the ESCO will calculate the energy savings, but the savings need to be trusted by the client. So the client with an EPC continues to pay all the energy suppliers for the energy that is received or consumed on the premises, but the energy bills will be reduced because thanks to the measures installed by the ESCO, the energy consumption will be reduced. The premises will be more efficient. The equipment and how the equipment are managed will be more efficient. So from a date that is called the commencement date of the contract, the client agrees to pay to the ESCO a monthly payment, and this is paid within a certain time interval, like 15 days by the end of the calendar month to which the payment relates. Sometimes I also hear that they might agree a payment to be maybe a quarterly payment or bi-monthly payment. That's also an option, but normally it is monthly payment. The energy savings are measured or calculated by the ESCO and are approved by the client in each period that includes multiple payments, and these periods are called the reconciliation periods, using the nomenclature of the contract. Number of reconciliation periods would form what is called the guarantee period. So the time period over which the ESCO guarantees the energy savings to their client. So what happens is that the ESCO sends a measurement and verification report to the client, detailing the energy savings achieved, and an invoice as well. So these energy savings are applied to a particular energy type, like electricity or natural gas or any other type of fuel that is used by the client. And if these savings are less than the guarantee, so the ESCO will have to pay what is called the performance guarantee payment for that particular reconciliation period. So they didn't make the level of savings that was agreed, and the ESCO pays something to the client to compensate the shortfall of savings. But there are two thresholds. So one is called the guaranteed savings, and there is another threshold called the shared savings, which is higher than guaranteed savings. So if the savings exceed the guaranteed savings threshold, but they are less than the higher shared savings threshold, then the ESCO takes all the excess of the savings. They don't share the savings if they exceed the guaranteed saving threshold, but they are less than the shared saving threshold. They don't share that portion of savings with the client. But if the savings exceed the second threshold, they will have to share the savings according to a certain proportion for the saving exceeding the second threshold, which is included in the contract. So the ESCO takes 100% of the savings that are exceeding the guarantee up to the shared savings threshold, but takes only the 50% of the savings exceeding the shared saving threshold. And what happens with the payments is the following. If the amount that ESCO is entitled to is less than all the monthly payments performance by the ESCO will repay the client the difference between. So the client paid more, but they checked the savings, and the savings were lower than what was agreed. So the ESCO received too much money, and the ESCO will repay the client with the difference between the two amounts. But if the ESCO should receive more, because after checking the energy savings, the savings were higher than what was the contractual guarantee, so the ESCO, the client should pay to the ESCO the difference. And in this way, they reconcile the payments in a certain period called the reconciliation period, and actually the ESCO will get paid based on the savings actually achieved. So paid based on the energy performance contract. So the performance achieved determine the payment. Okay. So this is the basic idea, and this is the main innovation of the energy performance contract, because with the traditional procurement methods, once that the measures are installed, whether they perform well or whether they perform bad, then the client would take the savings, but there is no guarantee that they will achieve a certain level of savings. And if the measures don't perform well, then the client performed an investment, but then the efficiency is lower than what was expected, and that's the limitation of the traditional approaches. So what does our project do? So our project, EasyPro, plays the role of EPC facilitator. So it is basically our team acts as an intermediary between an energy service company and a building owner, which in our case is basically a university, because we offer the service only to Irish universities. So the energy service company performs energy audits, design the upgrades, installs the measures, and commissions them, runs the measurement and verification service, performs maintenance. But we, as facilitator, provide assistance for project financing, manage the procurement process, so help the universities to set up a procurement framework. We reach out to ESCOs. We can invite selected ESCOs to bid, and we manage all the stages of the EPC contract in collaboration, of course, with the procurement offices of the universities. And so this EPC facilitation service is accelerating the signature, the approval of EPCs at Irish universities, and so it aims not to replace the procurement office. Of course, the procurement office functions do not change. It's just a facilitation service that aims to prepare all the documents, to organize tenders, to organize a framework, and to reach out to ESCOs in the market and train the ESCOs, provide information to the ESCOs, invite them to bid for a particular project. We also manage the project bundles at the university. So we group the measures together in some project bundles, and then we go to procurement with these project bundles. And I think this is really a facilitation service, not replacing the procurement offices in any way. Tendering process. Okay, what is the process that we aim to follow? So first of all, pre-qualification. So first of all, the ESCOs are shortlisted, are invited to some meetings, and they're shortlisted based on their legal status, financial standing, previous experience. So we would check that these companies do exist, then that they have financial strength to participate in tenders, and that they have a previous experience in similar works in buildings of the public sector, for example, or even at universities, some of them. After that, the ESCOs are invited to participate in a competitive dialogue process, and they are informed about the award criteria. They are provided with the technical files and baseline data, which has been previously collected by the universities. And then the ESCOs are invited to visit the buildings at the universities and perform an investment grade audit. And after that, to prepare an EPC proposal. And this proposal will include the suggested measures, the guaranteed energy and cost savings, and the total project cost. Then the procuring body, which is the procurement office of the university, will request for proposals. So the ESCOs are invited by the procurement offices to submit their EPC proposals and the findings of their investment grade audits, and basically this is a competitive dialogue process, and the university will appoint a panel of representatives. Then there is an invitation to tender that are approved by the university for each of these project bundles. Then there is a certain time frame for receiving tenders. After that, the invitation to tender is issued, and then the invitation to tenders are received, and the successful ESCO is selected, the contract are signed. And when the contract are signed, I think our service has delivered what was planned to deliver. So once the contract is signed, we're not providing any further assistance. This is a service meant to facilitate the starting of a new EPC. Okay, so currently our project is offering the service to University College Cork, Technological University Dublin, Dublin City University, and Maynooth University. So we are assisting the teams at these universities throughout the EPC procurement process, establishing a framework for ESCOs that can participate in these tenders, that are qualified, and providing assistance to start a competitive dialogue process. We also have contacts with investment funds and companies, and run a matchmaking service between funds and projects, such that let's say finance can be provided by each project if finance is not already provided by the universities, which is also possible. So while we are working now with this for universities, in the long term, we also plan to replicate the service in other Irish universities. So it's in our stakeholders group, we invited the building estates managers of all Irish universities, and we hope that we can have a constructive discussion with them and actually the role of the stakeholders is to advise on how to increase the impacts of the project, help the research team to identify the barriers, and how we can have more EPCs starting at Irish universities. That's the main goal of the project. The project has 4 partners. So the first partner is the International Energy Research Center, which is the project coordinator and also the leader of the investor relations matchmaking service. But we also have Lawler Sustainability, which is an Irish ESCO based in Kilkenny, and they are responsible for the design of the EasyPro solution and also to create the project bundles that will be then brought to the tendering phase. Then we have Codima based in Dublin, so they are experts in the tendering process and they have previous experience in energy performance contracting. So they lead the setting up the tendering process with the universities. And of course, then we have CAR Communications that leads all the communication, dissemination, networking activities in the project. So 4 partners, 4 Irish partners, but this is really an international project. So like all the live projects, the project will have international impact. Some stakeholders are located in other countries, not in Ireland. And we also have the ambition to replicate the service and to provide lessons learned to organizations that are outside of Ireland. But for the 3 years of the project, we will focus on the Irish universities. That's the main focus. So thanks very much for your time and to be in this webinar today. And I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have any.